my colleague Alan Schneider, director of B'nai B'rith and World Center, and I of the Ecumenical Theological Research Fraternity welcome you to the 13th Liaison Committee Symposium. It's appropriate to hold a symposium on the day of Ta'anit Esther, the fast before the delivery of salvation for the Jewish people. A fast that gives strength before fighting a strategically thinking adversary who wishes to annihilate Israel. Efforts to divest evangelical Christians from Israel might be a new twist, but it comes with a long-term strategy that targets different groups of Christians, Jews, and Muslims alike as potential instruments in that battle. To this end, Christian churches have been aimed as useful tools since the early 1970s. In the meantime, many historic Protestant church hierarchies have fallen victim to that anti-Israelism. They did their job, namely to penetrate the Western minds and Western societies with anti-Israelism. While Israel stands strong, some of those anti-Israel church hierarchies are in danger of falling, like the PCUSA or the Episcopal Church of America. All the while, many confused Christians are convinced that BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions, is a good thing, and consequently losing their faith. That strategy resembles suspiciously that of the PLO Charter of 1964, which calls for the destruction of Israel and recommends the penetration of Western superstructures, including the World Council of Churches, the YMCA, and the UN. It recommends building networks that destroy the institutions from within. At the time, it sounded preposterous, but it wasn't. The aim, seemingly positive, is supporting a Palestinian people. But this is a smokescreen behind which lies the desired aspiration to destroy Israel, and people go step by step. The strategy is an alliance with the unmentioned elephant in the room, that is the Islamization of Western societies. It targets not only Israel, but the freedom and the identity of the Judeo-Christian culture. This objective has been analyzed and exposed by many, such as Rafi Israeli, Moshe Sharon, Matthew Orr, Mordechai Nissan, Mark Dury, Jacques Ellul, Robert Spencer, and many others. While there are three areas involved, namely theology, law, and culture, the interest of this symposium lies in the theological outreach via Protestant churches. Theology is employed as a political tool. For example, evangelical Christians are serious about Jesus. He is a Jewish Messiah, teaching the Jewish Bible to humankind. For the sins of the world, Jesus suffered, was crucified, and risen to glory. In Islam, there are two Jesuses, one of the Gospels and one of Islam, which comes in two recollections. The Quran giving the real history of Isa's life, including that he did not die on the cross, and the Hadith collections establishing Isa's place in Muslim understanding, such as that Isa is the destroyer of Christianity. That kind of Jesus will have an important role to play in the end times, establishing Islam and making war until he destroys all religions save Islam. He shall kill the evil one. He is an apocalyptic anti-Christ figure. The two kinds of Jesus are antagonistic. The Muslim Jesus will uproot the gospel Jesus and reroute him into Islam. Where the gospel Jesus came to redeem humankind from its sins for eternal life, the Muslim Jesus will come to destroy the world and will rescue the elected ones of the right faith. That religious doctrine shows in a number of political moves. One of them is connected with UNESCO. An agency founded on peace and justice for all is helping to rewrite history. On their World Heritage List, UNESCO chooses to list the Church of the Nativity and the pilgrimage route as being in Palestine, not in Israel. It follows the UNESCO decision of 1973 when it selected November 29th, precisely 31 years to the day after the UN partition plan of Palestine, as International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. The Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem now has become a visible sign that the birthplace of Jesus lies, de facto, in Muslim Palestine. The Christ at the Checkpoint Conference follows suit. It is eager to show the world from that birthplace that Jesus is a Palestinian Muslim. In contrast, the evangelical world has been a stronghold and standing with Israel. In doing so, it acts according to the Bible. Jesus is a Jew who brought the teachings of Israel to the world. Obviously, such a Judeo-Christian message must become a target in any anti-Israel strategy. Impudence, of course, meets resistance. Thus, the Symposium of the Liaison Committee, in view of the strategic thinking of professional Islamists, will look at two aspects: at strategic employments of evangelical Christians and at tools of defense. I'm very much looking forward to our symposium. Thank you.
Maybe just a few words of background for those who are not familiar with the Liaison Committee. It is a committee, an informal Jewish Christian initiative aimed at fostering better mutual respect and understanding between local Jews and Christians, and is a platform for raising and trying to resolve issues that impact on both communities. The Liaison Committee was reconstituted by the B'nai B'rith World Center, which I direct, and by the Ecumenical Theological Research Fraternity in Israel in 2010. And since then, we have conducted a number of what I believe to be important meetings, consultations, and conferences geared to this growing relationship. Now, as Petra mentioned, this conference is taking place, this symposium is taking place during a conference called Christ at the Checkpoint, which is taking place, as I mentioned now, in Bethlehem. It's taking place now for the third time, and there are really year-long activities taking place under that title of Christ at the Checkpoint. And what it aims to do is to promote a theological anti-Semitism and a statecide against the state of Israel. I mean, a kind of deicide against the state, and to bring about, as I see it, the end of the state of Israel. Those behind the conference have set as their goal the very title of our symposium, which is a divestment of evangelical Christians from the state of Israel. Two of our speakers here, Dexter Van Zyl and Robert Nicholson, actually came to Israel in order to audit and critique that meeting, and I want to pay tribute to them and also to my very courageous and committed co-chair, Reverend Dr. Petra Heldt, for taking the brave step of appearing very publicly also at our event here this afternoon before going back to Bethlehem for the conclusion of that conference. Concerted efforts to drive a wedge between evangelicals, particularly American evangelicals in Israel, is not new, and some people have actually been at it for years. Until the past few years, though, there's been little reason to believe that they would succeed in extending their influence beyond their own narrow circles. However, observers believe that this is now changing dramatically. With David Bragg, the executive director of Christians United for Israel, writing in a recent Middle East quarterly article, quote, "With every passing month, more evidence is emerging that these anti-Israel Christians are succeeding in reaching beyond the evangelical left and are influencing the mainstream. In particular, they are penetrating the evangelical world at its soft underbelly, the millennial generation," end quote.